Amazing, boss. You did a great job again this time.
My colleague said so and lifted up the director. The director looked satisfied and said,
I know, right? I always get whatever I want.
as he was grinning at me and continually.
Huh, I'm not like some middle school grad.
It made my blood boil by his glare, but I wasn't stupid enough to stand up to my boss in the office. I clenched my teeth and held in. My name is Mike, a 32-year-old who works at a food manufacturer. My parents love my older sister dearly, who is 2 years older than me. I experienced favoritism since I was a child. They'd buy her anything, and they let her do anything my sister wants to do. I used to get jealous, but I eventually became apathetic. I wanted my parents to see me for who I was, so I'd get good scores on tests. But they look at me like, with no interest. Such things continued, and maybe my parents will see me for who I am if I became a troublemaker and might look out for me. I thought so. I got into fights at school and got bad grades, but all I got was a beating from my father. My older sister looked down on me and said,
I wish you could stop doing unnecessary things.
And laughed. There was no place for me in my own home. I didn't want to go home, so on my way back home from school, I would spend my time at the library or the park in the neighborhood. This lifestyle did not change when I entered middle school. When I became a middle school student, I found out that there's an Italian restaurant near the park. It was quite a luxurious looking restaurant, so I thought it was a place far beyond my reach. When I saw a happy looking family walking out from the restaurant, I was jealous. I wanted to experience the warm atmosphere, so I'd often pass in front of the Italian restaurant on my way home. One day, I was walking past in front of the Italian restaurant, and someone suddenly jumped out from the back of the restaurant. The person who was carrying a large bag didn't seem to notice me, and I ran into that person perfectly. In front of me, I saw scattered restaurant work uniforms all over. I'm sorry, I quietly said. Then, the other person reached out his hand to me. My bad, man. I was in a hurry to take these to the cleaners, and I couldn't see what was in front of me. Are you hurt? Are you okay? He said. The person looked like he was in his 20s. It had been too long since someone said something that nice to me like that, and naturally, I burst into tears. The man seemed to have noticed that, but I felt embarrassed, so I picked up the scattered uniforms, pushed them onto him, and ran away from the spot. Once I got home, I thought I did the man wrong. The next day, I couldn't help but think about it, so when I passed by the restaurant and peeked inside, the same guy was wiping the table. I tried to hide, but he noticed and came out. You're that kid from last night, right? Are you okay? Just like yesterday, the guy who spoke to me kindly was named Richard and was 15 years older than me. After that, Richard would say hi to me whenever he noticed me, and I gradually started to open up to him. He was the first person whom I shared about my family situation. Richard said, I don't feel sorry for you, but if there's anything I can do, just let me know, and smiled. Soon after, I was in 8th grade, and it was time for me to decide on my career path. But my parents said we don't have that kind of money to spend for you. Like, it was the obvious answer. My older sister is attending a private high school because she thinks the school uniform is cute, and she still gets whatever she wants as usual, but they won't even pay for my education. I asked, at least for me to attend public school, but there's no way a dumb kid like you could attend it. Waste of admission fee. And laughed. Seemed like my parents wanted a girl, and when I was born a boy, They didn't like that fact, and they treated me terribly. On top of that, leave this house when you finish your middle school, was what I was told. I'm 15 years old, and I'll be out in the streets? The thought of that scared me, and I got out of the house. When I noticed, I found myself in front of the Italian restaurant Mr. Richard was working busily. I had nowhere to go, so I went to the nearby park and sat on a bench. When the sun had already set, I saw someone running towards me. It was Mr. Richard. It was my first time to cry to him. Then,
If you're willing to work, I could ask my boss. There's a place for you to live and stay in the restaurant, so what do you think?
he said. Mr. Richard's approach was for me to at least work and figure out from there. But I was happy about that. I felt like I was recognized as a human being, and I nodded to Mr. Richard's words. And after I graduated from middle school, I went to live and work at the Italian restaurant. The boss and Mr. Richard was both strict, and I almost gave up halfway through the job. But
This is what it means for you to work for money.
these words of Mr. Richard got my attention. I was helped so many times by Mr. Richard. At first, I only did some chores, but gradually, I was allowed to serve customers and cook dishes. It seems like Mr. Richard was an extremely good cook, and everyone trusted him. I told my parents that I was going to work here, but they didn't seem interested and never came either. It was like being cut off from the family by now. I've been working here ever since, but 3 years ago, the restaurant decided to relocate. At the same time, I decided to change my job. From working at this restaurant, I managed procurement and inventory, and I began to find these things pretty interesting. And I was also interested in other jobs as well. So I decided to join a food manufacturing company that I've been interested in. Mr. Richard, the boss, and other employees congratulated me for my new start. I was enthusiastic about my new job and worked hard. But the department I was assigned to? I enjoyed the job, but the relationships were terrible. Especially the director, who had a similar personality like my father. Had it clear between those whom he favored and those whom he looked down on. I was not his favorite. My colleagues who were the director's favorites would please him often. When I joined the company, I didn't know the company culture and would greet my director as usual. Seemed like the director didn't like that. And when he found out that I'm a middle school grad, he started looking down on me.
For a middle school grad like you, this task is too much for you,
he would say, and would take away the project I'm almost complete from me countlessly instead.
Even a middle school grad can do this job, right?
And forcibly assign me to print documents. I would only be assigned on small clients, and once the order volume gets bigger,
This project is too much for you.
he would say the same thing and snatch the project away from me. The subordinates laughed at me and said,
He's cocky for a middle school grad, huh?
to the director. Come to think of it, the Italian restaurant was a tough place to work, but the company culture was great. And thought, I kind of miss it. Then came the season to welcome newly hired employees, and the director forcibly assigned me to organize the welcome party.
Hey, you! Be the organizer. The location is here,
Said him. I looked at the restaurant. Isn't this a fine dining restaurant? There's a 3-year waiting list for this place. It's impossible to have a welcome party next month, I said. But the director,
And we're saying that we'll go to that place. Make them cancel their customers.
said the impossible and left me. I negotiated with the restaurant, and on the date that another group canceled the reservation, I managed to successfully get a reservation. And day of the welcome party, when we were about to head over to the restaurant, the director called me in.
That project I took over after you previously? It went through without a hitch. Well, you couldn't have done it yourself.
The director said about the project he forcibly took from me, proudly. This project was originally a deal with a small shop, but eventually, the order volume increased, which through the word of mouth expanded the number of clients. In the deal, we are working with a chain restaurant, and when the deal was almost finalized, the director said,
"This project is too much for you."
like he always said, and took the project from me. It was almost certain that the deal would be finalized, but once again, the director took the credit of the deal.
"I'm not like one of the middle school grad,"
said him, and I bit my lips. When the director saw my reaction, he laughed and said,
"Middle school grad who can't even contribute to the company should go home. You'll lower our reputation."
To me. Huh? I asked back, and the director opened his mouth.
"You don't need to come to the welcome party. I'm concerned with your manners, since you are a middle school grad too anyways."
The director smirked at me. But... I tried to speak, but...
"You heard what I said, right?"
The director made it clear. I thought it sounds dumb for me to attend the welcome party, so I said, "Understood." Since it was just about the end of the workday, so I left the office as fast as I could. And in about 30 minutes, my phone rang. The caller was the director. When I answered,
"Hey, what's going on? We got told that we can go into the restaurant without you."
he kept yelling at me, and I laughed at those words. Yeah, the restaurant is an invite-only place. Since you, the director, picked the place, I assumed that you were the member there. The director got even madder.
"I didn't hear anything about membership. I got told that we can go in even though we made a reservation. Even if it's a members only spot, how did you get a reservation?"
He shouted. I responded, "Because I'm a member." Then, the director's voice got louder.
"What? A middle school grad like you is the exclusive member of a fine dining restaurant? You're lying. There's no way that's possible,"
said the director. I was amused by his anger, so I said, "I'm in the area, so I'll be on my way," and hung up the phone. In about 10 minutes, I arrived at the location. The employees who were attending the welcome party were gathering around in front of the restaurant. When the director saw me, he came running towards me.
"If you really are a member of this place, hurry and show your membership card. The CEO will be here any minute."
Nope, I can't. There's a policy that I can lend my membership card. I explained it to the director, but he wouldn't back down.
"They're not gonna know. Lend it to me now. Or did you really lie that you are a member?"
The director gave me his usual smirk. Normally, I'm the one to bite my lips, but I got over the whole thing and I grinned at him. "Well, this is the membership card though." When I showed my membership card, he suddenly pushed me over. As soon as I fell on my butt, the director's subordinate surrounded me and took my card from me. I thought, you're really going to go that far? The director got my card in his hand and went inside the restaurant. But the director was soon kicked out of the restaurant.
"That's not your membership card, is it?"
A harsh voice echoed. The director said,
This is mine. I'm a member here."
incessantly. But the staff said,
"The name is written here. This card does not belong to you,"
and came out of the store. At that moment, I raised my hand to the staff. Mr. Richard. Yes, this fine dining restaurant is owned by Mr. Richard, who is also the chef here. The restaurant that I used to work at had relocated. The story of the store relocation originally came about when they wanted to separate the business of the fine dining and family-oriented Italian restaurant, which is based on the owner's desired plan. The owner continued being the owner of the main family-oriented Italian restaurant, and there's more restaurants opening up for business expansion. And Mr. Richard was assigned as the owner chef of this fine dining restaurant. I had been coming to the restaurant since it first opened. Mr. Richard's food is something you want to eat, even if you have to pay the membership fee.
Mike, you okay?
Mr. Richard rushed over to me. When they saw that, the director and the subordinates were confused. I stood up by the helping hand of Mr. Richard and said to the director, Mr. Richard was the chef at the restaurant where I used to work, and now he is the owner chef of this restaurant. Mr. Richard is the one who helped me, a middle school grad, get a job. The food here is absolutely delicious. But would you, the director, appreciate the flavors? When I said that and laughed, the director glared at me. This is a welcome party, and you forcibly made me make a reservation and making me, the member, to leave? Never thought of this to happen, I continually said. Then when the director was about to say something, someone approached him.
What's this all about?
The whole place got quiet. The director panicked.
CEO? No, well...
He replied. So I explained to him what had happened today. Then, I'd had to put in the work since the director takes away a lot of my projects. The director always looks down on me because middle school is my highest education, so I am resigning from my position, I said, and handed my resignation form to the director. I had thought about resigning so many times before. I was very indecisive about it, but after today's incident, I realized that I shouldn't even be here. Actually, when the director sent me home, I wrote my resignation form to submit it tomorrow and had it in my bag. The director took the form, but the CEO glared at the director.
What do you mean you took his project? I thought you were excellent at your job. But maybe you have been taking your subordinates' projects and making them your own, huh?
Said the CEO. The director turned pale and shook his head, but the CEO thought we were getting in the way of the store and pulled the director away. The CEO and Mr. Richard compromised together to still let us hold a welcome party without the director joining. Mr. Richard said,
Of course,
and let the other employees step inside the restaurant. The CEO said to me,
I want you to share the situation of the company in the office,
and left the store. Later on, I told the CEO what the director had been doing and saying to me. The CEO said,
I guess I was only seeing the surface of the situation. I am truly sorry,
and lowered his head with disappointment. This was a good opportunity, not only for me, but the director who took others' projects and harassed others was called out by a lot of people and was demoted as an associate. The director who used to look down on others so much stayed in the corner and was doing his job. After I witnessed that, I resigned from that company. 2 months had passed by since then, and now I currently work at Mr. Richard's. The tastes at this fine dining, they are making moves to commercialize it. I thought I might be able to play a role in this project and asked directly to them. Mr. Richard said,
You're right. In return, you have to show me results.
To me, compared to the previous company, I'm not as stressed, and now I can truly enjoy working. In addition, ever since I started working here, The CEO from the previous company came for a visit. When I was resigned, he said that he would like to experience the taste of this fine dining, so I invited him. The CEO said that the former director had mortgage on his house and begged him not to fire him. But when he started working as an associate, he was frustrated that he didn't have a title and blamed others, so I gave him a warning. But
I can't stand this company anymore.
he shouted and quit. By quitting his job, the ex-employee's wife divorced him, and now the wife has returned to the company. The former director couldn't find a new job and currently works part-time at a supermarket, but he frequently got into trouble and was fired quickly. When the divorce was settled, no one knows of his whereabouts. I couldn't help but laugh at the end of the story. By the way, my older sister, who always looked down on me, her marriage failed and moved back to her parents. Then she got addicted to online shopping and is in terrible debt. They sold our parents' house and moved into a shabby apartment with our parents. She once contacted me, but "And so what?" was all I said, and never heard from them again. Thanks to Mr. Richard, I am here. I will do my best at work to repay him fully.